The biting wind howled through the ancient pines of the northern wilderness. A massive silhouette moved silently across the pristine white snow. I never imagined my soul would end up trapped in the body of a beast. My new senses detected a scent that didn't belong in this frozen wasteland. It was the smell of blood mixed with the sweetness of milk. I pushed through the heavy underbrush toward the source of the sound. There, lying in a shallow hollow, were two tiny bundles of humanity. They were shivering violently against the encroaching frost. One baby opened her eyes, revealing a gaze far too old for a child. How could anyone leave such small lives to the mercy of the elements? I stepped forward, my massive paws barely making a sound on the ice. The twins looked up at the towering predator, their breaths hitching in their throats. I lowered my head and exhaled a warm cloud of breath over them. The baby with the golden aura reached out a tiny hand toward my snout. Even as a wolf, I could feel the remnants of a powerful soul within her. I couldn't leave them here to become a meal for lesser scavengers. Carefully, I gripped the frayed silk of their blankets with my teeth. The weight of them was nothing compared to my immense strength. Far off in the distance, a pack of hyenas cackled in anticipation. I let out a low, vibrating growl that shook the very ground. The forest went silent as the lesser beasts fled from my presence. I turned back toward my den, leaping over fallen logs with ease. The babies had stopped crying, seemingly mesmerized by the rhythm of my gait. These highborn souls were now being carried by a wild animal. We reached the mouth of a hidden cavern shielded by ice crystals. This was my domain, the heart of the Snow Wolf Pack's territory. Several of my subordinates rose from their slumber, their eyes flashing. I dropped the infants onto a bed of soft, dry grass in the center of the den. The other wolves circled the human children, low growls rumbling in their chests. I stepped between the pack and the babies, asserting my dominance. One of the infants, the one with purple eyes, let out a tiny, commanding huff. She still thinks she's an empress even in this powerless state. The children were hungry and I needed to find a way to provide for them. I remembered the wild spiritual goats that lived on the higher peaks. Their milk was rich in spiritual energy and would sustain these humans. I left my most trusted beta wolf to guard the den while I was gone. The twins watched me leave, their expressions a mix of confusion and calculation. They knew I wasn't just a simple animal, but they couldn't fathom the truth. Outside, the air grew colder as a strange purple rift began to tear open the sky. The spiritual revival was accelerating much faster than I had anticipated. Suddenly, a piercing scream echoed from the direction of the den. I turned and sprinted back, my heart pounding against my ribs like a drum. Inside the cave, a shadow was creeping toward the two infants. The twins' small bodies were beginning to glow with an unstable, violent light. A low, distorted voice rasped from the darkness, recognizing the Empress's souls. If the shadow touched them now, their reincarnation would end before it truly began. The looming shadow receded as the Wolf King stepped firmly between his daughters and the chilling darkness of the cave entrance. Inside their makeshift cradle, the twin infants watched with wide eyes that held the wisdom of fallen empresses. The Wolf King knew that a cold, damp cave was no place to raise human children with fragile lungs. He trotted out into the moonlit woods, his mind racing with architectural designs from his previous human life. With a sudden surge of spiritual energy, he used his massive claws to carve precise notches into a fallen ancient cedar. The elder twin Lin felt her jaw drop as she witnessed a beast performing the delicate work of a master carpenter. Her sister Yan squinted her eyes, trying to sense if some ancient spirit was possessing the white wolf. He dragged the prepared timbers toward a massive ancient oak tree with sturdy horizontal branches. Leaping from branch to branch, the Wolf King secured the foundation using braided vines and interlocking joints. He lined the floor with aromatic pine needles to keep away insects and provide a natural cushion. By the time the sun rose, a sophisticated elevated dwelling stood completed among the leaves. He gently transported the basket containing his daughters up the spiraling ramp he had constructed. The twins looked around the interior, noticing the insulation and the small windows that allowed in the breeze. However, the Wolf King's work was far from over as a pained howl echoed from the valley below. A scouting party of his wolf pack returned, several of them limping with festering wounds from a skirmish. The Wolf King descended the tree, his presence commanding instant respect from the injured beasts. From their high vantage point, the twins watched as their father began to forage through the undergrowth. He selectively picked blood-stanching grass and blue mist flowers, herbs known only to advanced alchemists. Yan recognized the combination as a potent antiseptic paste she had used in her previous life to heal her soldiers. He crushed the herbs into a pulp using a flat stone, mixing them with clean melted snow. The Wolf King applied the paste to the wounds of the largest wolf, who whimpered before falling into a peaceful sleep. Lin whispered a silent prayer, realizing this wolf was more of a scholar than a savage beast. After treating the pack, he returned to the treehouse with a bundle of soft, edible fruits for the girls. He mashed the fruit into a puree, making it easy for the infants to consume without any teeth. The twins ate greedily, the spiritual energy in the fruit revitalizing their tiny, weakened bodies. As the twins slept, the Wolf King sat on the balcony, staring at the shifting constellations of this new world. He missed the comforts of his old world, but the warmth of the sleeping children gave him a new sense of purpose. Suddenly, the wind shifted, bringing with it a scent of scorched earth and sulfur. He stood up, his fur glowing with a faint defensive blue light that illuminated the entire tree. The spiritual energy in the atmosphere was vibrating, signaling the true beginning of the Great Revival. Inside, the twins woke up, sensing the heavy pressure of a powerful predator entering their territory. A low growl vibrated through the ground, vibrating the very roots of the ancient oak tree. The Wolf King leaped from the high balcony, landing silently in the snow to face the intruder. Two burning amber eyes emerged from the thicket, belonging to a creature twice the size of a normal tiger. The Siberian tiger let out a roar that shattered the silence, its fur crackling with orange electrical sparks. The Wolf King realized this was a mutant beast, a direct rival for the dominance of the mountain. He couldn't retreat, for the treehouse above held his only reason for living in this strange world. Yan and Lin watched the standoff from above, their hearts racing with a mixture of fear and newfound respect. The Wolf King lunged forward, his body becoming a blur of white fur and lethal intent. As the two apex predators collided, the ancient oak tree groaned under the force of the spiritual shockwave. The tiger's claws raked across the Wolf King's flank, drawing blood that shimmered with starlight. Lin reached out her tiny hand toward the window, her past life instincts screaming for her to help. The Wolf King felt his strength waning, but he forced himself to stand once more between the beast and his home. Far off in the shadows, a third pair of eyes watched the battle, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. If the Wolf King fell tonight, the twins would become the prey of a horror far worse than a tiger. The midnight air crackles with invisible static as the spiritual revival reaches its absolute zenith. Within the high treehouse, the Snow Wolf King stands firmly between the entrance and his sleeping daughters. A low guttural growl vibrates through the floorboards, signaling the arrival of a massive predator. The twin girls wake up instantly, their infant eyes wide, with the realization of the impending danger. The Wolf King leaps from the high balcony, landing silently in the thick snow below. Emerging from the shadows, a Siberian tiger 3 times the normal size reveals its glowing orange eyes. As a former human, the Wolf King analyzes the tiger's stance for any sign of spiritual mutation. The tiger roars with a force that sends a shockwave through the surrounding trees. Unflinching, the Wolf King answers with a howl that summons the very frost from the air. High above, the twins crawl to the edge of the balcony to witness the clash of the titans. The tiger lunges forward with claws extended, shredding the ground where the wolf stood a second before. Using his superior speed, the Wolf King dances around the heavy beast like a white phantom. The twins realize that their wolf father is using advanced human martial arts footwork in his animal form. The tiger swings its massive tail, knocking the Wolf King into a thick pine tree. A sharp yelp escapes the wolf as he hits the ground, his white fur stained with a hint of red. Seeing their protector hurt, the twins feel an instinctive surge of their former Empress powers. However, the Wolf King pushes himself up, refusing to let his daughters intervene and expose themselves. He releases a roar that freezes the moisture in the air into thousands of crystalline spears. The tiger senses the sudden shift in power and attempts to retreat back into the woods. With a flick of his head, the Wolf King sends the ice spears flying toward the retreating predator. The spears find their mark, pinning the tiger to the earth and ending the threat instantly. The Wolf King's glowing eyes dim as the massive expenditure of energy takes its toll. He looks up at the treehouse to ensure his daughters are safe from the carnage. The twins are no longer looking at him with suspicion, but with eyes full of tears and admiration. Slowly, the Wolf King climbs back up to the dwelling, his movements heavy but steady. He enters the room and is immediately met by the two infants crawling toward him with all their might. In this moment, the rivalry of their past lives as empresses completely dissolves into their love for their new father. The other wolves of the pack gather at the base of the tree, bowing their heads to their true king. The Wolf King realizes he has successfully protected his legacy and built a sanctuary in this new world. He uses his paw to gently pat the heads of his daughters, promising a future of peace. The spiritual energy in the air begins to stabilize, marking the start of a new era for all living beings. The twins giggle, their first genuine laughter filling the wooden halls of their home. All the previous conflicts between the wolf pack and the human world seem to vanish under his wise rule. No longer just a beast or a transmigrator, he has become a father in every sense of the word. The camera pans out, showing the majestic treehouse standing tall as the crown jewel of the frozen forest. Flowers of pure spiritual energy begin to bloom in the snow around the base of the tree. The two former empresses fall back into a deep, dreamless sleep, feeling safer than they ever did on their thrones. The Wolf King lets out one last soft howl, a signal to the world that his family is untouchable. The snow begins to fall gently again, covering the scars of the battle and leaving only beauty behind. Under the watchful gaze of the Snow Wolf King, a new legend of the wild and the human heart has truly begun.